العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد الأمين نبي الأنبياء وخاتم المرسلين وعلى آله وصحابته والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. أرجع قليلا إلى أن نكمل موجبات البعد. وإن كنت محضت زيادة فاسجد لها بعد وفاء العبادة كالجهر في السر وركن التزيدي والشك في الإتمام أو في العدد والأكل والشرب ونفخ قل والقيء والتسليم سهوا كلا وبعد ثنتين استوى ثم جلس في محلات القيام قد عكس ولا سجود مجزئ عما وجب ولا خفيف سنة ومستحب ويسجد القبلي مع الإمام من أدرك الركعة بالتمام وأخر البعدي مطلقا أجل وإن يخالف فيهما عمد البطل وكل ما سهاه حال القدوة يحمله إمامه من سنة وكل سهو بالإمام قد نزل يتبعه مأمومه ولو فعل ولم يقم يقضي الذي قد فاته حتى يفي إمامه صلاته فقام بالتكبير مدرك الإمام بركعتين أو تشهد السلام ومدرك ثلاثة واحدة بغير تكبير يقوم خذ فائدة. أقرأ من عندي إن تكن تمحضت زيادة قبله
نعم. بسم الله الحمد لله
والصلاة والسلام. وإن تكن تمحضت زيادة إذا كانت فقط خلصت زيادة ما في أجل تسجد لها بعد وفاء العبادة، لكن هذه الزيادة لابد أن تكون من غير السنة من غير السنة. فزيادة السنن لا يلزم منها شيء كمن التكبيرات والسورة كررها لابد أن تكون من خارج الصلاة أو من فرائضها.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, the all-merciful, the especially merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. May His peace, blessings, mercy, honor, elevation, and protection be upon our Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his noble family, companions, and followers until the day of judgment. Glory be to you, O Allah, and far from imperfection are you. We have no knowledge except that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are the all-knowing and the all-wise. Now he's mentioning the ba'di sujood, meaning the prostrations that you do after the salam, as opposed to the last class, which if you haven't watched, then this class will be impossible to understand and confusing. So definitely go back and watch the last class that was a week ago. So he says, now if you purely and only have an addition to your prayer, which is more than, which is adding a fard to your prayer, or something outside of the prayer, and the examples will be given, such as a little bit of speech outside of the prayer.
من غير ذكر
without paying attention.
فعلت كذا أو نسيت وقلت كلمة أو كلمتين من أخضر شيء خارج عن الصلاة.
Or somebody accidentally, they're sitting and instead of reciting their Quran, they recite a couple lines from al-Akhdari forgetfully.
وقال وقع كذا أو فعل كذا شيء خفيف.
Or says something happened or this, something light without paying attention. Adding such things to your prayer that, of course, if you add them intentionally, the prayer is invalid. But now adding them forgetfully, you have a sujood that is done after the prayer is done. So if you two sajdas that are done after. So this is assuming that you didn't reduce anything from your prayer. Your prayer is complete except that you only added something to it. Then you do two sajdas after you finish the prayer. After you say the salam, then you do two sajdas. Then you do the tahiyyat, the tashahhud again. Then you do the salam.
كالجهر في حالة السر.
For example, reciting loudly while the prayer is supposed to be silent. In the rak'ahs that the prayer is supposed to be silent.
ركعات الظهر والعصر.
Or, for example, the third and fourth rak'ahs of Isha, or the first and second rak'ahs of Dhuhr and Asr.
كل ركعات الظهر والعصر.
All of the rak'ahs of Dhuhr and Asr.
أنا جهرا زائدا على قدر ما يسمعه من بجنبك أو الجهر اللي يسجد له.
To what extent do you have to read loudly for the sujood to be mandatory? It's now or to be even allowed. It's to the extent that it goes beyond that the person
بجنبه
next to you can hear you. If anybody beyond the person next to you can hear you,
يقول جهر يسجد له البعد.
that's the level of loud recitation that would necessitate the ba'di sujood, meaning after the salam.
كالجهري يقول كالجهري.
نعم.
كالجهري
وركن تزيدي.
ركن التسجيل زاد ركوعا وسجودا وقرأ الفاتحة مرتين.
Or you added an entire obligation of the prayer, such as reciting the whole Fatiha.
أو آيات منها.
حتى آية واحدة.
إذا زاد منها آيات يعني شيء.
Or you added verses of the Fatiha, or you added the Fatiha again, or you added an extra rak'ah.
أو ركوع أو سجود.
Or an extra bowing or prostration. For all of these, you would do the ba'di sujood.
نعم كالجهري تابع.
الذي والشك في الإتمام أو في
كالشك بالإتمام وبالعدد كذلك أيضا من شك بالإتمام شك أتم الصلاة ولم يتمها فإنه يجب عليه إذا لم يكن موسوسا أن يكمل الصلاة فيسجد البعد أيضا أو في العدد هل هو صلى ركعتين أو ثلاثا فيأتي بالاحتياط ويسجد البعد.
And again, this was mentioned last time, but once again, if you are not a person who constantly gets whisperings in your prayer, that you're a person who once in a while you're gonna say, oh, did I do this many rak'ahs or this many rak'ahs? Only if it happens once in a while, then you should add the extra rak'ah just in case, and then you do the ba'di sujood. Whereas if this is a regular happening for you, then you must ignore it, and even if your prayer is not complete, even if it turns out that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows your prayer wasn't complete, your prayer will still be accepted as full because you ignored the whisperings of the shaitan.
والأكل والشرب ونفخ قليلا كذلك واحد أكل قليلا فقط أخذ قليلا كمية قليل يعني لقمة قليلة خفيفة أو استشرب قليلا من الشيء سهوا أو النفخ قليلا ما كثر منها سهوا فإنه يسجد البعد.
So this doesn't just apply to forgetting an entire
movement.
Even if you're like, did I even complete that movement? Did I recite the whole Fatiha? Did I finish the entire thing? The same ruling applies. And also, نعم والأكل والشرب a little bit of accidental eating, forgetful eating or drinking or blowing.
فلو كان عمدا بطلت الصلاة.
If you do any of these things intentionally, then it invalidates the prayer.
وإن كان قليلا فإنه يسجد البعدي.
And if it is done forgetfully and just a little bit, then do the ba'di.
كالأكل والشرب ونفخ قليلا.
وإن كان كثيرا
بطلت الصلاة ولو سوا.
And if you ate a lot or you drank a lot,
ليس الله بما تفهمون فقط.
You're just there munching something for a second,
ليس الله كما
it's not a lot like you're thinking that you're sitting there, actually eating, but there's like
شيء زيادة على لقمة خفيفة أو شيء.
It's like more than like a single like bite or something just you swallow. Then even forgetfully, you took like 2-3 sips, then even forgetfully you're going to be the prayer will be invalid.
كذلك من تقيأ سهوا وكان طاهرا من لم يتغير لأن الصلاة صحيحة وسجد البعدي. تقيأ سهوا.
And if somebody vomits something out,
سهوا أنا كان ما قال هكذا بنفسه سهوا ناسيا الصلاة ومشى منه قيء.
That somebody, like for example, burped out and something that they had
eaten,
they had swallowed.
رماه عنه سهوا.
They spat
لم يأتي غلبته فعله سهوا.
That he did so, not realizing, and then something came out that he had eaten or drank that was still in the shape or in the form that it was in. It wasn't like actual vomit. That had
فعلوا
changed.
سهوا ليس بنية ولكن سهوا.
نعم نعم. Then
سهوا أو الصلاة.
then نعم.
لكن يكون بشرط أن يكون قليلا طاهرا ما تغير.
It has to be one. It has to be a little bit, and it has to be forgetfully, and it has to be
طاهر لم يتغير عن حالة الطعام.
pure, unchanged. It has to still be in the state of the food that it was. If it's like reached the stomach, digested, or mixed with the food,
صار نجاسة وبطلت الصلاة.
then it's impurity and his prayer is invalid.
كذلك من سلم منه اثنتين ومثلا اعتقد كمال الصلاة فسلم.
كلها.
اعتقد كمال الصلاة سواء كان من ركعتين او من ثلاث. اعتقد كمال الصلاة سلم ثم بعد ذلك ظهر انه ولم يحصل طول فانه يحرم ويكمل الصلاة ويسجد بعد.
Same if somebody says a salam from their prayer early, like they prayed 3 rak'ahs
أو ركعتين
or 2 rak'ahs for a longer prayer, and then they realize, oh, my prayer is not done. They immediately continue praying the prayer. They finish the prayer as normal.
واجب عليه أن يحرم ويكمل الصلاة يحرم للباقي من الصلاة.
Of course, for him to continue his prayer after doing the salam, even forgetfully, then he'll say Allahu Akbar with the intention of ihram that he's re-entering into prayer.
إنه يريد إكمال الصلاة.
Re-entering into prayer now, to continue with the prayer.
نعم. ثم يسجد البعدية لزيادة السلام.
And then because he added a fard, which is the salam, he does the ba'di, which is the after.
هذا السلام سهوا. السلام سهوا ليس عمدا.
The sujood after the salam, which is what we're discussing today.
ما
And
كان
this is
عمدا
again,
من
this is
الصلاة
if a person does so forgetfully. If a person is like, you know what, let me end my prayer and then rejoin it on purpose, that's obviously invalid.
نعم تاب.
بعد ثنتين استوى.
ثم جلس. واحد الحكم انه اذا قام فارق الارض بيده وركبتيه يجب عليه يستمر. ما بعد ان فارق الارض بيده وركبتيه رجع سهوا يجلس وسطى. فهي زيادة.
So if a person
بعد ان فارق الارض بيده وركبتيه.
after his hands and knees leave the floor, when he's getting up after the second rak'ah, he's getting up for his third rak'ah, you're supposed to sit down and do your tashahhud and then stand up for your third rak'ah. So if a person forgetfully stands up, we already said that that's and he leaves the sujood, then that's the qabli.
بعد ان استوى رجع ساجد.
We're talking about now he stands up, and after he stands up fully, بعد أن
بعد ان استوى فارق الارض بيده وركبتيه رجع ناسيا.
Then after now he stood up, he sits again forgetfully. Not then he should do the ba'di because he added standing.
فلو رجع عامدا فلا شيء عليه إلا إذا قرأ الفاتحة.
But if he returns back to sitting,
لا شيء عليه.
there is no.
لا يجوز أصلا.
It's not allowed for him to do that, but his prayer will still be valid unless he stood up long enough to recite the Fatiha.
وبمحلات القيام قد جلس في الثانية قدر التشهد. عكس نعم. محلات القيام قد عكس معناها جلس. معناها من واحدة جلس ومن الثالثة جلس ناسيا حتى قدر التشهد.
Or if somebody is
جلس في واحدة أو في الثالثة.
Supposed to stand for the prayer, there's the opposite mistake. That after one rak'ah you sit down.
ناسيا.
Forgetfully. You think maybe it's the end of the second rak'ah, you sit down, and then you realize, oh no, I actually.
بعد أن أكملت التشهد أو قدر ما تكمل التشهد تذكرت.
So if you stand up immediately, there you don't have to do anything. That sitting just doesn't.
خفيف ما لا شيء.
It's a light addition. For it to necessitate the ba'di, you have to sit down for long enough for you to do your tashahhud.
معناها إلى أشهد أن محمد وأشهد أن محمد عبد الله.
Meaning التحيات لله all the way up to وأشهد أن محمد.
ذلك وقدره.
Whether you actually said it or you just sat down long enough to say it, then you would this would necessitate the ba'di.
فإن كان أقل من ذلك فلا سجود.
But if it's less than that, then there's no sujood.
تابع.
ولا سجود
مجزي عما هو شبه، يعني أن من ترك شيء واجبا لا يسجد، كمن ترك الفاتحة وترك الركوع والسجود لا يسجد عنه. الفرائض لا يسجد عنه. ترك الفرائض لا يسجد عنه.
If somebody, now this is a different discussion. Now, how about if somebody forgot to do a fard, an entire fard, which is ruku' or sujood? He skipped sujood, he skipped ruku', and then this is a big deal. The sujood as-sahwi will not make up for missing fards.
هذا سيرجع إلى التدارك وبطلان الركعة فيأتي بركعة كاملة وبطلان الصلاة.
So this is very simple. Either he, in some cases, he goes back to that and continues, or if it's too far gone, he's separated between that thing that he had forgotten by the time he remembers by ruku'. Then he just deletes that rak'ah and he minuses down his number of the rak'ah that he's at by one.
وبعد إذا كان سلم وحصل الطول بطلت الصلاة.
But if he finished the prayer, said the salam, and
then was just,
and remembers immediately he's still fine, he goes back and adds another rak'ah. However, a lot of time it goes, or he goes back to it if it's near, but if it's been a while, then no, he has to repeat the whole prayer. لا يوجد أي تفاصيل أخرى لهذا.
فقط إذا عقد الركوع بعدها يأتي بركعتين وإذا لم يعقد الركوع يرجع عليه.
So again, the detail: when do you go back to the fard? When do you keep going with your prayer, but you minus the rak'ah you're at by one and add a rak'ah to the end of your prayer? So if you're on your third and you remember something in your first rak'ah that you missed, now you're on your second again. So you're going to actually do the tashahhud now at the end of your second rak'ah. And now you have an extra tashahhud in your prayer, so you're both, so you're adding to your prayer now by having forgotten that. So this would be a ba'di case. So in other books they go into more detail about specific instances, but the important thing is whether a ba'di or a qabli is due to that deletion. However,
يرجع في ذلك بين عقد الركوع أتى بركعة وإن لم يعقد الركوع أتى بالبعد لأن زيادة.
You only go back to what you forgot if you aren't separated between you and the mistake by ruku'. Like you stand up and you realize, oh, I only did one sujood, then you sit down, then you do the sujood, then you stand up again. So you go back to fix the mistake. But and you do the ba'di. Or let's say if you did only one sujood, you stand up, then you bow, then you stand up, then you realize, oh, I only did one sujood last rak'ah. That's too bad. It was last rak'ah. You're separated between it and ruku'. You're not in the same rak'ah anymore. You can't go back. وإن كنت في السجود في الركوع قصدي. وإن كنت في الركوع تذكرت أنك سجدت مرة واحدة.
لكن إذا كنت رفعت من الركوع خلاص.
ما رفعت من
لا ترجع للسجود.
So this even applies if you are in bowing, then you can still go back. It's as soon as you lift up your hands from your knees and your hands are unable to reach your knees anymore, that means you've stood up from that. That means even if you remember, you don't go back. You cancel out the entire rak'ah and you're considered
هو الركوع الذي يفيته كل ما مضى من الركعة التي بعدها للحناء قريب من اليدين إلا بترك السجود.
نعم.
يفيت عليك ما مضى من الركعة، يفيت عليك ما مضى كل ما إذا حطت انحطاطا قويا بحيث أن يديك تقوم من ركبتك إلا بترك السجود، فلا يفيت عليك إلا الرفع من الركوع. كل الأشياء الماضية يفيتها عليك، لو تذكرت الفاتحة، لو تذكرت ركوع من الركعة الماضية،
كل شيء
يفوت بالانحناء إلا لترك
السجود.
هو رفع رأسي، رفع رأسي إلا لترك الركوع. هو رفع رأسي إلا لترك الركوع. كل شيء يفوت برفع الرأس يكون إلا ترك الركوع فبالانحناء.
نعم، إلا بترك الركوع
بالانحناء فقط، وأما غير ذلك لا بد من رفع الركوع.
نعم.
إذا كان الركوع من الركعة الماضية
واضح. نعم.
إذا كان الركوع من الركعة الماضية
نعم،
هذا يفوت بالانحناء، معناه بطل بيديك من الركبتين.
نعم خلاص طبعا لأنك كيف ترجع بنفسه الرجوع ويعني اللي يستوي في هذا يعني
وإذا لو كان سجود ولو كان فاتحة ولو كان هذا فقط برفعك من الركوع.
نعم.
بعد في الركعة الأخرى
لا يحتاج يعني هذا لا يزيد شيء لأن الذي
لا لحظة
انحنى
وقد يكون بالركعة الثانية.
نعم.
ركعة ثانية أنت أتيت بالسجود من هذه الركعة ولكن ما تذكر منها. فبعد ما انحنيت في الركعة الثانية الركعة الأولى.
نعم.
فلو كان سجودا من الماضية أتيت بسجود واحد وما ترك السجود، وما بعد ذلك انحنيت في الركعة التي بعدها لا يفوت عليك قبل أن ترفع الركعة.
يعني طبعا واضح.
نعم، الركعة الأولى سيفوتها عليك الانحناء في الركوع فقط من الركوع الماضي. فهمت؟
نعم، فقط الركوع. نعم، هذا واضح لأنك لا تستطيع أن ترجع.
فقط واضح لهم.
نعم. نعم.
كل ما فات عليك من الركعة الماضية
from the last rak'ah is only counted as missed, that you can't go back to it once you start getting up from ruku'. To the point where
فارقت يداك ركبتيك بحيث انك صرت قريبا من القيام.
You are so high up that you cannot reach your knees anymore. That means you're خلاص, that's it. You're in the new rak'ah and you realized that something missed in the last rak'ah, خلاص, it's gone. However, even if you're in bowing, anything from the last rak'ah that you realize you didn't do, the standing, the fatiha, the sujood, you go back to it. So even if it was standing, then you go into standing with the intention now of returning back to that standing, and you'd still be in that same rak'ah. However, if it was the actual bowing of the last rak'ah that you missed, sujood? ركوع. However, it was the actual bowing of the last rak'ah, then by you going into bowing again, now it becomes, that now your hands are close enough to reach your knees, now it becomes impossible to go back, because going back is literally the same position that you're in, and either way it's going to be like the rak'ah is deleted, right? You're not going back for anything. The rak'ah is deleted. Now you're in ruku'. Either way, it was your second rak'ah, and now you're in your third rak'ah going to ruku'. If you delete one rak'ah, you're in your second rak'ah in ruku'. If you go back, you're in your second rak'ah in ruku'. It's the same thing. So that's one thing you can't go back for once you are going into ruku'. However, if you're just standing and doing your fatiha, and then you realize, oh, I didn't do the ruku' for the last rak'ah, then what do? You don't read the rest of the fatiha, you go into ruku' with the intention of going back. However, you finish the fatiha surah, then you're going and leaning, then now you can no longer go back to the ruku' of the last rak'ah, and you can just cancel out the rak'ah. So, no, it's a detail that doesn't change anything in practical.
خفيف السنة من تركها كما ترك ركعة تكبيرا واحدا أو سمع الله لمن حمده مرة واحدة لا يسجد شيء. ومستحب ترك القنوت أو آمين أو ربنا ولك الحمد.
So then there is no sujood for just a light sunnah, such as one Allahu Akbar, Sami Allahu liman hamida, one Sami Allahu liman hamida, or the things like forgetting the qunut. For us, this is mandub, all right? So they do sujood for that, but not us. Forgetting the qunut is not, you don't do it. Or saying Rabbana wa lakal hamd, or saying Ameen, or saying all of these things, there is no sujood for them. And the prayer will in fact be invalid if you do that sujood when it wasn't permissible for you to do so, when it wasn't now necessitated. So this is a big problem for those people who are like, you know what, let me just do the sujood qabli. No, don't do that. It's going to invalidate your prayer. ويسجد القبلي مع الإمام.
ويترك القبلي مع الإمام.
ويسجد القبلي مع الإمام.
تابع.
بقي أدرك الركعة بالتمام.
يعني أن ما المسبوق أدرك، يعني المسبوق هو المسبوق، معناها كل مأموم يجب عليه أن يأتي مع الإمام بقبله. من أدرك ركعة كاملة انسحبت عليه المأموم. كل ما يلزم الإمام من القبل يلزمه من القبل، كل ما يلزمه من بعد يلزمه معه. فإن كان قبليا سجدوا معه قبل أن يقوم لقضاء معه، كان بعدين تركه حتى يكون
صلاة. So the principle for praying, for doing for how to do the sujood sahu with the imam. First of all, you have to be ma'moom. You have to be considered a person who is a part of his jama'ah, and to do that, it's not by simply saying Allahu Akbar and joining. You have to have prayed a full rak'ah with him. You have to have caught ruku' with him. So that means if before he goes up from ruku'. So if you didn't catch a rak'ah with him, you do not do. Your prayer is your own prayer. As soon as he says the salam, you stand up and go about your own prayer. Or if he has qabli, or he's doing sujood before the salam, you cannot do that sujood with him. You wait until he's done. Then when he says the salam, you go about your own prayer. So don't do any sujood with him. Don't make up the sujood that he did. Nothing. It's just his sujood is his sujood. That's his business with the people who are praying behind him one rak'ah or more. So if you didn't pray a full rak'ah with the imam, or meaning that you didn't catch the ruku' with the imam, you have nothing to do with his sujood. And if he's doing qabli even, you just wait until he finishes, then he says the salam, then you go about your own prayer from that point. That's very clear for the person who didn't catch the rak'ah. In every case, this is it. If he's doing ba'di, you stand up. If he's doing qabli, you wait until he's done and then stand up. As for if you caught a rak'ah with him, then whatever sujood he does, whether you were there for the mistake or not there for the mistake, or you did the mistake with him, or you didn't do the mistake with him. Either way, you are his follower. You have to do the sujood as he did it. So, if it's a qabli, you do it with him before making up the missed rak'ahs. If it's a ba'di, you stand up when he says salam. Either way, you're going to stand up when he says salam. That's the key. If you're caught a rak'ah with him, just stand up when he says salam. If he did, let him do his ba'di on his own. You do your rak'ahs, and then after you're done, after you say the salam, then you do your ba'di. If it's a qabli, then you're going to do it with him and then stand up and make your rak'ahs, and then you're good. So that's just listen to that on repeat, and it should become very clear. وأخر البعدية مطلقا أجل وإن يخالف
فيهما عمدا بطل وإن خالف عمدا بطل وقدم البعدية وأخر القبلية عمدا بطل الصلاة.
نعم.
إذا قدم البعدية.
نعم إذا جعله قبلي.
نعم سيد مع الإمام بلان البعدي قبل أن يقوم لقضاء معه.
نعم. So how about if you're praying behind? Now, as far as if you make a mistake with this, you're like, okay, you see the imam do his salam, so you don't stand up for your rak'ahs. You do the ba'di with him. Your salah is invalid. You can't. He's said his salam. That means you have to do your salah is invalid. Or you intentionally left the qabli with him. You're like, let me go finish my rak'ah. You caught a rak'ah with him. That you're ignorant. You didn't know. You caught a rak'ah with him, and then he goes to sujood. You're like, no. I'm gonna save that and do it before I say my salam. No, your salah is invalid. وإن كنت غير مأموم يعني وما أدركت ركعة وتبعته في القبلي
أو البعدي
أو البعد.
بطل صلاتك كان عمدا كان سهوا لا بأس. كان عمدا وجهلا بطل صلاتك وإن كان سهوا تسجيل البعد.
So then, if you didn't catch a rak'ah with him, and you follow him in either ba'di or qabli, your salah is invalid unless you followed him
سهوا ليس جهلا ولا عمدا.
not paying attention. You follow
ليس جهلا ولا عمدا.
then not intentionally and not out of ignorance. You follow them out of ignorance, prayer is still.
الجهل كالعمد في هذه الأمور. الجهل
Ignorance in these basic matters is like intentional.
اعلموا أن الجهل في الأمور الضرورية كالعمد. يعني الطهارة والصلاة لا يعذر بها صاحبها العقيد مطلقا.
So then in aqidah, in purification and in prayer, ignorance is not an excuse.
لا يقبل مطلقا.
It is not an excuse.
لا يقبل
All the prayers in the past that you made these mistakes with ignorance,
اقضيها ما في
you
خيار.
must make up with no
قمت
excuse.
فعلت طيلة حياتك بأي نوع من الجهل يبطل الصلاة والصلاة باطل. أو يبطل الغسل والصلاة باطل.
You've been messing up your ghusl due to ignorance in the last many years.
أو يبطل الوضوء وصلاتك باطل.
Or you've been messing up your wudu, your ghusl.
هذا هو حالنا وأكرر عليكم مرات.
And that is the case of all of us. Ignorance.
كلكم يلزم أن يعيد 20 سنة أو 10 سنوات أو 40 سنة لأنكم ما قرأتوا فرض العين.
Everyone needs to make up 20 years, 40 years of prayers.
أو 50 سنة.
Or 50 years because
أو
of
60 سنة.
No.
60 years.
So it's a serious matter.
ليس لا تقبلوا ومن قال لكم لا تعدوا فاعلموا أنه خانكم.
And whoever's
خانكم. لا تقولوا حنفي ولا شافعي ولا حنبلي ولا شيعي ولا سني ولا خارجي. اسمعوا مني.
So it doesn't matter. Don't listen to anyone who tells you whatever they call themselves.
لا تقبل ما في مذهب لا عالم يقول هذا.
There's no one who tells you don't do your qada. You have to do your qada and do your Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of the day, if you're doing the best you can to do your qada, so don't be hopeless and say that, oh, you know, I might as well not do it. No, do everything that you can in qada and realize this is your top priority. And then if you die while making your qada, at least you're dying in a state of repentance.
هاي توبة ولكن كونك تترك هذا ما تبالي به هذه معصية.
But to leave it like not caring about it, that's a big deal. That's a huge sin. So don't be hopeless and say that, oh, I'm probably going to die before making up and realize you will not try.
سأشتغل بالسنة.
So let me just go and do sunnah and tarawih. Absolutely not. You want to do the best thing, mashallah, die in a state of repentance. Be daily in a state of every prayer. Do your qada as a part of your repentance. That's a beautiful thing.
وحول واسع حال القدوة يحمله إمامه من سنته. كل ما نسي عنه من موجبات القبل أو البعد هو فقط المأموم ولكن الإمام فعله لا شيء عليه. الإمام يحمل عنه.
As far as if you're praying behind an imam. As far as you're praying behind an imam.
موجبات القبل والبعد خليها.
نعم. As far as you're praying behind the imam for a rak'ah and you make a mistake behind him.
يلزمون القبل والبعد.
As far as you make a mistake behind him that would necessitate the qabli or the ba'di. Then of course the imam's not going to do the sujood. Should you do the sujood yourself anyways? No. The imam absorbs your mistake, don't worry about it. You accidentally got up instead of sitting down and then you sat down, you accidentally accidentally spoke a light speech, you accidentally did any of these things. You left out every single sunnah. All of these things. You stood up accidentally, you sat down in extra sitting accidentally. All of these, the imam absorbs your
Yes.
So long as you're praying behind that.
كل ما سوى بالإمام قد نزل فإن المأموم يلزمه ولو فعله المأموم.
And then so basically it's all about the imam's prayer when you're praying behind the imam. If he makes a mistake, then whether you did it or not, you have to do the sujood. If you make a mistake, whether he did, if you make a mistake, it doesn't affect his. It doesn't. You don't. There's no sujood. ولم يقم
وقت الذي قد فاته حتى يفي إمامه صلاته ولم يقم مأموم واجب عليه ينتظر حتى يسلم الإمام ما يمكن.
Clarifies, he says, and he doesn't stand up
مأموم
to the person praying behind the imam.
حتى يقول السلام عليكم كاملا.
In any case, he must stand up only when the imam says salam from his prayer.
كاملا.
لا يكون كمل اللفظ يعني
مكمل اللفظ
ولا يكون كاملا يعني كأنه لو كان البعدي طبعا هو سيفعل
لا السلام انتهى لا تكلمنا عليه الماضي.
So whether you have prayed a rak'ah with him or not, you're only going to stand up when he says the salam. The only difference is if he has qabli, you do it with him if you're ma'moom of him, and if you haven't caught a rak'ah with him, then you don't do it with him. We've already mentioned this. وقام بالتكبير ويدرك الإمام في ركعتين أو تشهد السلام.
نعم يعني أن الإنسان إذا أدرك مع الإمام ركعتين كاملتين وسلم الإمام هذا يندب له أن يقوم بتكبيرة زائدة الله أكبر ما بعد ذلك يبدأ بالفاتحة. فإذا تركها شيء عاد لا يضر. لكن إذا كان من ركعة واحدة ركعة أو 3 ركعات لا يقوم بتكبير فقد يبدأ الفاتحة. إذا كان أدرك أقل من ركعتين يقوم أيضا بتكبير. أدرك أقل من ركعتين أو ركعتين يقوم بتكبير وما عدا ذلك لا يقوم بتكبير.
So either you caught 0,
أقل من ركعة
1, 2 or 3 rak'ahs with the imam, and then those are the cases
لا
where
تقول 0 أقل من ركعة.
less than 1 rak'ah. نعم less than 1 rak'ah.
معناه
Meaning 0 rak'ahs. يعني 0 total.
نعم.
Either you caught not a full rak'ah with the imam, or 1 or 2 or 3 rak'ahs with the imam, and now you have 1, 2, 3 or 4 rak'ahs to make up. Seeing as if you prayed 2 rak'ahs, then you should do the tahiyyat. That means when the imam does his tahiyyat, you're already in your position where you would be doing tahiyyat anyways. So now when you stand up to do your 3rd rak'ah, you do say Allahu Akbar after the imam says his salam. However, if the imam you happen to miss, so that means in the case where you missed, where you caught with him not a full rak'ah, 0 rak'ahs or 2 rak'ahs, that means you're in a position where your standing Allahu Akbar is something that you're going to say anyways, so you say it. However, if you caught 1 rak'ah or 3 rak'ahs with the imam, that means that if you are praying your own prayer and you're finishing your 1st rak'ah, you're not going to sit down naturally. You're only sitting down because the imam sat down and you're waiting. Then when he says salam, you just stand up without saying Allahu Akbar. Why? Because your Allahu Akbar was said when you left your sujood. So you just stand up without saying Allahu Akbar and you start the Fatiha. As far as if you intentionally or forgetfully said the Allahu Akbar anyways in this case, it doesn't harm your prayer. It's just a matter of etiquette. If you have caught, so simply without the explanation, if you have caught 0 or 2 rak'ahs with the imam, then you stand up with Allahu Akbar. If you have caught 1 or 3 rak'ahs with the imam, then you stand up without saying Allahu Akbar. آخر شيء وندركم 3 واحدة بغير تكبير.
خذ فائدة. نعم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. ما اسمه